Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is To Back or Not to Back. We have a very busy week ahead of us, a whole lot of things coming up, a bunch of new stuff, bunch of old stuff, bunch of cancellations, bunch of things happening this week. But first, foremost, starting off the bat, we do have a sponsor this week, which is WSBG. The World Series of Board Gaming is sponsoring this week's To Back or Not to Back. I'll have a link down below, you can check that out. But first, before we get into that, basically WSBG, the World Series of Board Gaming. I talked about this already in another full video on that. Maybe I'll link to it if I remember. But overall, this is a fantastic event that went on this past year. I really enjoyed this one. This is a World Series competition. You had a whole bunch of people coming together to compete over 16 different games, and they're going to have this coming year, September 24th to September 28th, 2023. We're going to have 16 different games being played, a whole bunch of new things thrown in, including Castle Burgundy, a whole bunch of fun options over here. This is a great campaign. It had a very great event. It had a very friendly atmosphere. That's a big deal. That everything just felt it felt like a convention of people having fun that also happened to be competing for $40,000 in prize money, $25,000 going to the winner, and then some to others. A bunch of pledge packages over here, or options you can get over here as far as different ways you can get into the game. I highly recommend the Stay and Play Competitor, which will give you both hotel rooms as well as entry into the things. And down below, if you use my coupon code, I'll link to that down below. Well, first of all, they'll know I sent you, and also you'll save $40 as well. That's basically our sponsor of the week, and with that, we're going to go ahead and starting off the bat with Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is where we take a look at a currently available game where you don't have to go ahead and wait a year and wonder if it's good or deal with any of that stuff. Instead, you can buy it now, and this is Carcassonne Big Box, $72 from Miniature Market. I believe I have this Big Box, different cover, but you know, the same components, same expansions in it. Carcassonne's a fantastic game. $72 for the amount of content you have over here. You know that this Big Box on Kickstarter would be about $102, or it would be $144 for the acrylic tiles. It'll also run you about $15-20 in shipping and about $27 in VAT, and then you can wait a year and pay for it now. I love crowdfunding, make no mistake, but sometimes you can get some great deals without having to go through the whole process that is crowdfunding. And Carcassonne Big Box over on Miniature Market, you can check this out and get it. I do recommend Carcassonne. You might want to get a cheaper version of Carcassonne to start you off, but if you know you like Carcassonne, this is a great starting point. From there, we're going to go ahead and start off with the campaign page that wasn't loading for a second there. We have Board Game Adjacent. We're starting off with Legendary Metal Coins Season 7. This is coming to you from Draw Lab Games. 703, sorry, Draw Lab Entertainment? Draw Lab. Let's go with Draw Lab. I think it's Entertainment, actually. But 703 backers, $40,000 raised. This is their Legendary Metal Coins Season 7. They've been doing this for, well, as you can imagine, 7 seasons now. They've had bags, they've had coins. They have games as well, but they do focus a lot on these game accessories. And these are metal coins. If you want to get your hands on a variety of metal coins, you can check them out. I've covered them in a few videos in the past, both Season 7 and I want to say Season 6. But I've covered some of their coins. They're excellent quality coins. They're not necessarily cheap. You have to factor that in. These are premium coins for a premium price point. But if you can match them up with the game that you think these look great to, I do highly recommend them. Their component quality is excellent. They have a nice solid chink to them. They feel very solid. Some coins you get, there are some metal coins I've picked up and they feel, I don't know what the right word for it is, but cheap. These coins do not feel cheap. High quality, you just have to figure out whether you find the patterns that you want from this. From there, moving on into the first and biggest cancellation, the only cancellation that is, we have the Modular Desk. Built by Wormwood, designed by you, was unfortunately cancelled. $2.2 million raised, and this actually made its way to around $2.5 million at one point. But then they started making changes and introducing payment plans, and pledges started dropping. This is the Modular Desk from Wormwood. That'll run you anywhere between like $4,000 to $7,000 for the desk. I'm sure you can get it for more than that. I don't know if you can get it for less than that. Wormwood makes incredibly high quality furniture. They've made board game tables in the past, and this was their first big joint Kickstarter venture. Not joint. This is their big Kickstarter venture that was outside of a more standard furniture zone. This unfortunately canceled. They put out an update. You can now go ahead and get this over on wormwoodgaming.com. There's a little note, a little announcement from them coming from the CEO, just talking about the campaign, what the expectations were, what they failed. In general, if you want entertainment, I do recommend Worm Life. That's the little blog on YouTube. A little over the top, but informative and entertaining at the same time. And yeah, the Modular Desk is going to wormwoodgaming.com, where they still will sell it and fulfill it, but with different goals. You can check out this whole thing. But basically, if you wanted this, yes, you can still go ahead and get it. From there, we move into the not funding category, where we have a whole bunch of the not funding category. Starting off with Deep Shelf. Deep Shelf, which I'm actually surprised is not funding. This is from Ninth Haven Games, the same people who brought you Dinogenics. 424 backers, $31,000 raised. Deep Shelf is a tableau building game, totally different style than Dinogenics, but this one is unfortunately not currently funding. We're currently looking, just based on where it is right now and based on how it's doing, I'm guessing we're looking at a cancellation and relaunch. Again, it's from the people who made Dinogenics, which has me intrigued. They've gotten like thousands and thousands of backers in Dinogenics, and this one hasn't hasn't fully funded yet. It's still struggling there. So I'm curious what we'll see as far as this one goes. Pledge comes in around $78. If you are someone who backed Dinogenics or has Dinogenics and wasn't interested in this one, I'm curious in the comments down below as to why not. What is it about this one that is or isn't pulling you in? Is it price point, the game, the theme, how it plays, any of those things? Sometimes I'm surprised when a game isn't funding, and this is one of those categories. From there we have Black Mold, 246 backers, $17,000 raised. Black Mold's coming to you from Terrible Games, so they've had a few games under their belt. And this one is a game that has a fascinating theme to it. I recommend watching the video if you want to check it out. But basically, you're trying to, it's a semi-co-op game, you're trying to escape, but ultimately you're going to have one winner, so that is a death blow for me as far as my personal interests. Semi-co-op does scare me off all the time. But that said, this game has a very interesting mechanic in which you hold your breath, and that's your turn. Your turn is as long as you can hold your breath for, which really can lend yourself into the sense of panic that this game has. I'm very intrigued by that concept, whether it would actually work or whether it be too gimmicky. Obviously, players who can hold their breath longer are at an advantage, but then again, so are players who can think faster, so is it really different? I don't know. Ultimately, the mechanic sounds fascinating and seems like it would add a sense of panic to the game. Currently, it's going to be $55 for the Black Mold Kickstarter Edition and $79 for the Prison Riot Edition, and then $100 for the full-on Deluxe Edition. I think that's part of the problem over here as far as why it's not funding right away. First of all, the black and white aesthetic, while very artsy, can have less of a immediate pull into pulling people into the campaign. And additionally, just looking at the price point to the content over here, when you look at what you're getting versus the price point, it does seem expensive. And again, in general, we're seeing crowdfunding become more and more expensive as people try to be cautionary, as people try to watch what their pledges are because they have to take into account everything. But I do think this one is on the more expensive side for what it looks like you're getting instinctively, which might contribute to the lower funding as of right now. This one likely will fund, by the way, just not a guarantee based on where it's at. From there we have Hike It, the backpacking board game. $15,000 raised out of a $24,000 goal, 302 backers. Hike It is the next game that looks like Parks. Not to say you can't have games that look like Parks. Trust me, you could. I mean, ultimately there are, what, 10,000, not 10,000, there's hundreds of dungeon crawler games, and they could all be distilled down to powers and abilities and walking around and murdering bad stuff, and you can always distill things down to their core components. But I do think, despite my defending Hike It, at the same time, when we had Parks, and then we had the John Muir Trail, like, what was called Backpacking, I can't remember what it's called, but the John Muir Trail one, and now we have Hike It. That's going to be 3 games that give you that sense of wandering around, collecting tokens for your various goals, and obviously they will be different in different ways, and they'll all stand out in different ways, but I think it is hard to immediately look at one, and I don't know if the theme is popular enough to immediately pull people in to get a ton of backers on this one. Pledge coming in for $55 for the game, or $110 for multiple copies if you want that, but basically $55 for this game. I think it does look good. I don't know if it immediately has a way of standing out as to why you should get this one compared to Parks or compared to the one we just had on Kickstarter, and this feels like just another one. Right now, just based on where the funding is, it might fund. It's hard to say for sure, but that's Hike It, the backpacking board game. Then we have Artisans by V Games. €5,000 raise, a €4,500 raise out of a €10,000 goal. It does look like it's struggling. This is one that caught my eye when I was doing the upcoming Kickstarters when I was doing the upcoming Kickstarters last time. This is one that definitely caught my eye. But this is $4,500 for €4,500 raise on Artisans, which looks overall, the game looks very good. The game looks compelling. Overall, it's one that definitely captures my eye, but it hasn't captured enough people's eye as far as the game goes. I compared it to Splendor in terms of the feeling I get for it, just trying to build stuff and use those and build. You're going to be every round, you're going to be building across 12 rounds, I believe. You're building these tokens or contributing to your tableau. It does look very compelling, and the art looks great. The pledge coming in at €35, which isn't that expensive. I am surprised this one doesn't have a bigger traction just based on the way it looks. Like I said, going back to Black Mold and whatnot, I think people buy with their eyes on crowdfunding in general, and this one, maybe it's just a personal opinion, but this one does pull me in terms of the visual appeal of it. But yeah, it looks like it's struggling, and I don't know ultimately if it will fund. Moving on from there, we have Wander LaCluck's Revenge when this white page eventually loads over here. Wander LaCluck's Revenge, 513 backers, $78,500 raised out of an $85,000 goal. Still not funded, but almost certainly will be. This is the sequel to Wander the Cult of Barnacle Bay. This is a standalone game. You do not need the original Cult of Barnacle Bay, but it does integrate if you want that. Cult of Barnacle Bay was one of those dungeon crawlers I mentioned, where you have characters and leveling up and baddies and all those fun stuff, and this is Wander LaCluck's Revenge. So, Same basic premise, same basic genre of the game, but this one focusing with new mechanics as far as you can have ships, you're going to have like the ability to shoot yourself from a cannon across the board, wander rafts across each other. So same idea, you're going to be going through a narrative pathway just with different aspects, different mechanics being mixed in, and like I said already, integratable with Wander the Cult of Barnacle Bay. Overall, that was a well-received game, not amazingly received, but a decently well-received game. Dice Tower liked it, the Hungry Gamer liked it a lot, and this is one that, if you're interested in that, if you want to check that out, you have the opportunity to get either or both of those. $110 will get you the Barnacle Bay pledge, and $110 will get you the LaCluck pledge, and then if you want $200, you can get both of those. You can get a little bit of a savings if you get both of them at the same time, and that's what you have as far as these. You have great miniatures. This is one that I actually had a chance to play at Origins like 2 years ago, whenever the first Origins after COVID was. I overall enjoyed it. Only got a single session, so I can't say how much it stands out over multiple plays and leveling up and all that stuff, but I did enjoy the one play I had of it, more specifically Barnacle Bay, not LaCluck's Revenge. That one wasn't out yet. But that is what we have as far as Wander, LaCluck's Revenge. From there, we move to Survival of the Fattest. $24,000 raised, 409 backers, 24 days to go. And this is another one that might well fund, just based on where it is, hard to say. 24 days is a lot of time. But then again, closing a $14,000 gap at this point in the campaign is a tough call. But Survival of the Fattest, you're going to be trying to play your cards and try to figure out each character having their own different asymmetric aspects to them, while you try to play your cards and forage various things in the forest, trying to survive and be fat and have as much food as possible in Survival of the Fattest. You're going to have 64, well, that's Australian dollars, $42 for the early bird, 45 for the standard edition, and then 64 for the deluxe Kickstarter edition of this game. That's Survival of the Fattest. Then we have SKÅL. SKÅL, the Viking rune game. SKÅL, the Viking rune game, 85 backers, $3,200 raised. SKÅL is a game of stacking dice. Stacking dice based on certain card combinations you're going to gather. You're going to have, let's see if we can find it over here. You'll have these different patterns over here that tell you how to stack dice. Then you'll try to stack dice, and you'll immediately go down SKÅL and yell SKÅL. Drunk or not drunk. This is either a family game or it's a drinking game, in the sense that it can be played either way as a lighter, accessible game with not that much depth to it, or a game which you have to stack things while trying to hold your alcohol. Either way is, in terms of the genre or the theme of what this can be either one of those depending on who you are. But this is SKÅL, coming in at £28 for the game, $33 for the base game over there, and $36 for the, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, the deluxe version of the game. That's going to be SKÅL, like I said, stacking with dice and trying to yell SKÅL, giving you a degree of entertainment and accessibility, either one of those categories it is. This one, unlikely to fund currently, just based on where it's at. It has to basically double and then some on the goal, which means it's less likely for this one to currently fund, but we shall see. And then from there, we have Boglins Battle the Boglands. That's a lot. Boglins Battle the Boglands is a game in the Gatefall universe, or more specifically using the Gatefall system. If you've seen Gatefall before, Gatefall is a game from Jack Dyer. There's been 2 Kickstarters in it so far. I know they have a whole bunch of plans for other themes they want to add in. It's a 2-player head-to-head skirmish game, and Boglins is bringing the theme of Boglins to the Gatefall universe. So they're basically introducing the Boglins IP into Gatefall. You can use and fight the Boglins against your current Gatefall properties, or against any future Gatefall properties, or just against themselves. You can have Boglins versus Boglins. That's basically what's going on over here. Unfortunately, this one is struggling to gain that audience. It's $49 for level 1, $99 for level 2 in terms of getting the game over here. But basically, you have like, these are the Boglins. These are the Boglins. The Boglins are these 80s the toys that were just weird and different and strange and very had an audience to a degree, but also that audience doesn't seem to be strongly overlapping with people who want to play Gatefall, at least not at the moment. $15,000 raised out of a $60,000 goal. Unfortunately, this is one of those times where the IP did not do the game any favors. Gatefall has had no problems funding in the past. I shouldn't say that. Gatefall has funded in the past. I don't remember if they've had problems with it or not, but they funded successfully twice now, and this one does not seem to be a match made in heaven, unfortunately. That's Boglins Battle for the Boglands in the Gatefall universe. Then we have Spies, a print-at-home spy thrill experience with hidden move. Sorry, wait, pause. Now we're on to the campaigns that are currently funding. We immediately jump from all those campaigns to those that are currently funding, and with 40 hours to go, Spies is the first one. I should have talked about this last week. I missed it somehow. But Spies is the print-at-home spy thrill experience for 2 to 6 players. This one seems like a fascinating little game. It's going to run you $4 for it. Is it $4? Yeah, it's $4 for the game, although you can pay $80 to get everything printed and printed for you with custom artwork or whatever stuff. I don't know what that's. You can check that out if you want. But for $4, you get the Spies print-at-home game, in which you're going to be basically having players who are both both always competing with the player on your right. So you're always trying to be mindful of yourself and the player to your right, which means it can play at 2, or it can play at 6, or arguably 724. I don't see why not past table size. I wonder if there's a reason for the limit of 6. I don't know enough about the game to understand if that limit should or shouldn't exist, or if it's arbitrary. Either way, the point is you're playing against the player on your right. So what you're going to do is you're going to be wandering. Every player is going to be taking turns wandering around the board. I guess there's questions you ask people, but I don't know if it only matters to the, I don't know. Either way, you're going to be wandering around the board, you're going to be wandering into zones, you're either going to be sabotaging it for the player on your right, or claiming it for yourself. The balance of that is you're trying to figure out what the player on your right is doing while trying to hide what you're doing from the player to your left, because if you sabotage a goal, then you score points on it if the player to your right tried to achieve that goal. Whereas if you go for the goal, then you will get it unless the player to your left sabotages it for you, and they're trying to sabotage it to you to try to stop you from getting it. So you're playing this constant mind game of when do you want to get points because you'll get points, versus when do you want to stop the other player because you'll get points and they won't get points if you do so effectively. Meanwhile, every round you're going to be asking questions. You'll have these questions you can ask the other players, specific questions you can ask them round by round, checking them off as you ask those questions, which will help give you a bit of a guiding aspect of what they're going for and how they're going for it. If you can accurately predict what the other players are going for, well then you can get in their way more effectively, which can help you win at this Spies print and play game. Seems very fascinating. I do wonder if there's a possibility, again I haven't played it, so take this for the loose table talk that it is. I wonder if there's the possibility that it always devolves into trying to sabotage your opponent, and then that just results in a table of people trying to sabotage each other and never scoring points. I wonder if that could happen. I imagine not. It depends on how likely you are to get points versus stop. I'm just thinking, I don't know. I have to play this game. Either way, that is currently Spies for $4, another print and play roll and write game. We're gonna have a few. We're gonna have another one of those. I think one more today. I think one more. Then we have Roll and Rails. Speaking of the one more, we have Roll and Rails. 444 backers, $3,800, 7 days to go. Roll and Rails is going to be building railroad empires with dice, pen, and paper. You're going to be rolling dice every single round. Let's see if we can find a board over here. Board. Here we go. Ish. You're gonna be rolling dice every single round and assigning those dice, one to your little expert down here, which will be utilized for the ability, and the other 4 for the various actions you're taking up here, or the 3 maybe, other 3 dice you're taking for the actions up here. Meanwhile, you're trying to connect stuff, deliver stuff in this roll and write train building game for 1 to 2 players or 3 to 5 players, depending on what pledge levels you get over here. There's gonna be the pledge level of $3 over here, which is going to get you the solo map for Florida, if you just want the solo map, and then if you want the solo, dual, and multiplayer map, that'll run you $5 to get you all 3 maps over there. Some decent praise on this game. Looks very compelling. My same complaint is the same one I always is, which is I'm always interested in these games and I keep backing the occasional one, not all of them, but I don't know if I'll ever actually do anything properly with them. Like, I want a proper box for all my print to play roll rights. It needs to happen. I don't know if it will, but we'll see. I'm definitely intrigued by both this and by Spies. Then we have the big one, Cthulhu Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown. 12,000 backers, $1.5 million raised. This is Season 3 of Cthulhu Death May Die, and this definitely deserves its own Should You Back video. I have not been doing Should You Back videos in a long time, but maybe I will something, there's a good word here. Maybe I'll rebirth? No. Bring back to life? I don't know. There's a term here. I'll revive the formula in some way, shape, or form, perhaps for Cthulhu Death May Die, just because I like that game enough that I'm happy to do a full dedicated video, but I'll do it later in the campaign, because ultimately that's when we'll know more about this campaign and information and all that stuff. But either way, I'm digressing. This is Season 3 of Cthulhu Death May Die. This is Season 3 bringing you Fear of the Unknown. This is based on the Cthulhu Death May Die. It's a standalone game. It's going to be bringing you 10 new investigators. It's bringing you the more Elder ones, more scenarios. I think it's like 2 Elder ones and 6 scenarios. I think it's the same in the base game, but it's bringing you new things as well. It's going to bring you relics as well as the additional monsters, so you're going to have the ability to mix and match in different ways. So it's bringing you all of what you got in Cthulhu Death May Die, and then some in terms of the content, components, and everything you have for the game. As usual, this is, come on, we have a variety of stretch goals being slowly unlocked. All these things over here, just more and more stretch goals, which I highly recommend. The investigative variety is one of my favorite aspects of Cthulhu Death May Die. I've played through almost all of the investigators, if not all of the investigators already. I have a ton of content for the game, and I've played through it all. This is one of my favorite games, so take that into account as I go through this campaign. Additionally, we're gonna have the lost episodes, which give you more content for yourself. We're gonna have more monsters, again, some more stretch goal stuff. We got more Season 1 and 2 cards of monsters, the Unknown Monster Box, Unspeakable, all these things giving you tons of content and ways to integrate all your content more and more to mix and match until your heart's content and all that stuff. For the optional buys, so far we have Ithaquah the Windwalker. I apologize if I butcher that. Expect that whenever I talk about Cthulhu stuff. But we have $30 for another Elder God, bringing you more variety, because you can mix and match that Elder God with both the 14, 15 scenarios you have from Season 1 and 2 and stretch goals and all that stuff, as well as everything you get here, giving you more and just tons of variety. You also have the Rising pledge with the green Cthulhu instead of the original one for $180. I don't recommend getting that. If you don't want to listen to me, then don't, but I don't recommend getting it. And then for $120, we have the Kickstarter exclusive content from the original campaign. So yes, if you missed out on that, if you only got Season 1 and Season 2 and you couldn't get all the Kickstarter exclusive stuff, well, now you can. Command does not often bring back stuff that was exclusive. This is, and it still is, Kickstarter exclusive, so they're still technically following that rule. But yes, this is one of those times that they are bringing it back, and I recommend you take advantage of it if possible. You have an absolute ton of content over here. An excellent game. Highly recommend it. It's going to run you $100 for that unknowable pledge, and then additional, you can see the $120 for the unspeakable box, for the $30 for the optional buys, and we can expect more optional buys as well before the campaign is done. Just basically following Command's usual traction or whatnot trajectory. That's the word I'm looking for. You can expect new content as well as the campaign progresses. This is an excellent game. It's an excellent game. We can also dive into the should you back it now that we're finally out of the past two ones. We had Spies, and then we had Rolls and Rails. Those are print and play. Everything else wasn't funding. As far as should you back it, should you not, as far as Fear of the Unknown, the short answer is absolutely yes. The content on this game, from the Elder Gods to the Unspeakable Box, has held its value just fine. There will always be people who want this game. This is a popular game. This is Command's highest rated game. Not highest ranked game, it's the highest rated game, and that will factor into how this continues to grow and hold its value. Imagine another Blood Rage with more printing and more content and them offering more exclusives. That's what you have on your hands here. This game is crossing into the top 100. It's doing well. There are some fantastic new characters. I will have coverage of this game shortly, so you can check that out as well, in case you want to see my opinion of the changes, the additions, all those things. The short version, I'll save you some time, is it's more good stuff. If you like Death May Die and you want more Death May Die, this is more good stuff. And if you don't like Death May Die, I don't think this is changing your mind. It's the same basic formula, just with some more good stuff added on top of it. But overall, this is one that definitely will hold its value. I do recommend getting that $100 for what you get in this campaign. I think is absolutely insane. You're going to get a ton of stretch goals, you're going to get a ton of content, and these stretch goals alone, basically, if you're on the fence about this one, back that unknowable pledge, and I guarantee you, I can't guarantee you because that would be a legal liability, I don't guarantee you, but I definitely believe it, that you can sell all the extras alone and keep the retail box yourself, and you can still make back your money and then some. This is an easy back, it'll easily hold its value. If you're in any way interested, this is a good time to jump in on it and see if it's a game for you. This is Cthulhu, Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown. I'm guessing 3.2 million? 10 days to go. It depends on the optional buys. Let's go with 3.2 million as my prediction. I might be ambitious, who knows. From there we have the Aegean Sea. I think it's Aegean Sea. It might be Aegean Sea. I don't pronounce things well if it's not a word that's said in general day to day. The Aegean Sea from Asmati Games from Carl Shaduk, $31,000 raised. This one unfortunately seems to be a bit of a phone-it-in campaign. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that doesn't necessarily promote you to back it on crowdfunding specifically, past the reason to support the creator. Basically, this is a game that will be available later. Well, let's talk about the game itself. This is from Carl Shaduk, who's done Innovation, which is fantastic. He's done Glory to Rome, which is, I like Innovation more, but Glory to Rome is pretty solid and also out of print and very hard to get your hands on. And he's done Matanai, I believe it's called, which I didn't like quite as much as Innovation and Glory to Rome, but I still enjoyed. For me, Innovation is the one I still have in my collection and still play the most of. But Aegean Sea is going to be bringing you some aspects of those games. That aspect of the multi-use cards, where you can play the cards to any side of your board for different purposes, which is a big thing that he does in lots of his games, just having things slowly expanding outwards in different ways as you try to figure out how to optimize around utilizing your cards in any number of different ways in the game. Unfortunately, the campaign does not have a ton of information on it, and a lot of it's buried in videos and whatnot. And additionally, there's no stretch goals, there's no real reason to get the game right now. The pledge levels are going to be coming in at roughly $30 plus shipping to get a game that they're saying is going to retail for around $40, which means you'll be able to get it for $30 less shipping, if not less than that, if you get it later. Now, they are doing that for the right reasons. They don't want to have exclusive, they don't want to have FOMO, they don't want to have any of that stuff, and that's great, and that's excellent, but they're also charging you more on the campaign than it will cost to get it at retail, obviously region dependent. Depending on where you are, this still may be better to get it on BackerKit as opposed to waiting down the road, but for many of you, especially if you're US based, waiting to get this at Miniature Market or wherever, I'm not sponsored by Miniature Market, at least not yet, but waiting to get it from Miniature Market or wherever or anything is likely the cheaper way to get your hands in it. Obviously, you'll have to wait and factor all that stuff in, so it's a decision you have to make for yourself, but that's Aegean Sea. Should you back it, should you not, is kind of vague on that one. Then we have 20 Strong from Chip Theory Games over on GameFound. Pause to remember the the name because I'm back here, Kickstarter and Game Fund. But 20 strong, finished with 30 games, $306,000 raised, 4,830 backers. 20 strong is Chip Theory's latest and cheapest game. The all-in on this one is going to be $65 because you just don't have a lot. You have 3 different decks. You have the Hoplomachus Victorum, the Too Many Bones, and the Solo Sentinels. All give different versions of 20 strong for $65 with free shipping, by the way, thrown in. Or you can get the 20 strong Solo Sentinels alone for $30 with free shipping, which just makes this a significantly better back, which is why you have 4,225 people backing this one and 295 people backing this one. Just the price point versus what you get is just there, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending how you look at it. As far as what is 20 strong, 20 strong is Chip Theory's attempt to make a game that is cheaper and not over the top and not with a ton of stuff going on with it. Although they are also promising they'll probably do it again and again and again with different lines. So by the time you're done with this, you may well need a trove chest to actually store all your 20 strong. That's their joke, not mine, but I believe in it. But either way, this is 20 strong, a game where you're going to be a solo game. It's designed as a solo game. In theory, you can play with more players if you just play together, make decisions together. But this is a game which you're going to have your handful of dice, your 20 strong dice. I recommend watching the campaign video, by the way. It's very funny. But you'll have your 20 strong dice in this game. And what you're doing every single turn is you're trying to use those dice to fight whatever enemy is in front of you. The problem is you have a certain limited refresh rate and you have limited rerolls and you're trying to figure out how to use your abilities and everything together while being mindful that if you overcommit too much, you won't be able to refresh too much. And sometimes you're going to be facing off at enemies who have a higher amount of dice that need committed than the refresh rate, and you're trying to balance your full 20 dice to be able to make your way through the progression and eventually take out the leader and win the game. That's the basic idea of it. It's an optimization puzzle with rerolls and management and abilities and all these fun things. It's Chip Theory games, so I'm hoping I like it. There's no guarantee, especially on smaller box games, who knows, but I'm definitely hoping I like it. Looks very cool. Overall, I mean, I like most people, I imagine, are in it more for Hoplomachus and for Too Many Bones than they are for Solo Sentinels. That's because we've grown to love those universes, and Solo Sentinels is going to eventually win over our cold dead hearts, but not quite yet. That's 20 strong over on GameFound. In general, reasons to get their Chip Theory games, they're usually a bit cheaper in crowdfunding than getting it down the road. They don't have massive savings, they have no FOMO, they usually have a slightly better price that you can go ahead and get your hands on it. And yeah, like I said, I recommend watching their video. It's an excellent video that is both humorous, entertaining, and also vaguely informative at the same time. Also, if they hit $350,000, they'll have a chip in the game. Why? Because their game is called Chip Theory Games, and this game doesn't have a chip, at least not yet. So it's important to have a chip. What is it for? Who knows? I don't know. They don't know. They're still figuring it out. We'll all figure it out together. Moving on to CoraQuest. Keep on questing. 1,800 backers, $61,000 raised. This is the expansion to CoraQuest, bringing you a bunch of new things, including campaign play, exciting environments, so you can have more tiles with actual effects in them and whatnot, as well as these dice and extra cards you get from the Kickstarter if you back it on Kickstarter, giving you extras. The Kickstarter thank you. You get a set of 5 cards, as well as these extra dice that you can utilize in your game. So that's basically CoraQuest. CoraQuest, for those who don't, well, that's what the CoraQuest expansion is bringing you. CoraQuest is a dungeon crawl game with very much a family-focused vibe to it, both from the art, the presentation, the accessibility, all those things. General idea is you're going to be adventurers wandering around in a dungeon, going on specific quests and trying to achieve the goals of those quests while utilizing abilities where you can, and trying not to provoke too many monsters from spawning on too many tiles like my son likes to do when he plays this game. No, really, he likes to wander off tile to tile to tile, continuously spawning new monsters that we can't possibly deal with, and then we eventually die, and he's like, let's do it again! And I'm like, well, sure, I guess. That's basically CoraQuest. Keep on Questing expansion is going to bring you new content from Dan and Cora Hughes to the game. This is, and by the way, disclaimer, that with my daughter, we did write a quest for the first game, so take that into account in terms of whatever bias I have around this game. We wrote the quest because we liked the game. We still like the game. We have not played the Keep on Questing expansion, and that's the information you can use for whatever it helps you there. For $32, you get the Keep on Questing expansion, and then for $64, you get the base game plus Keep on Questing as far as getting access to those. As far as should you back it, should you not, the Kickstarter exclusive content on CoraQuest actually did fairly decently overall. This game has a lot. I mean, this game is rated an 8.3 on Board Game Geek. It has a lot, has a very solid following as far as people who are trying to get their hands on this game to get as much as everything. It does have a retail availability, or at least it did for the base game, so take that into account, but overall, not a bad back. As far as Destinies, as far as the next campaign, coming up next we have Destinies Witchwood over on GameFound. The expansion and reprint. Very, very clearly, this is an expansion, not a standalone game, as I wondered doing my coverage of the game, where I was like, I don't know if it's standalone or not. It's not standalone. It's not standalone. You need the base game. You definitely need the base game. But this is Destinies Witchwood, the expansion and reprint from Lucky Duck Games. This is going to be bringing you 3,800 backers, 385,000 euro raised. This is bringing you more content in the Destinies universe, using components and content from your base game. game, which you know, you're gonna have your cards, your boards, different things like that, your coins, your various characters and items, and all these things you can still unlock and interact with, while also bringing you the new campaign setting of the Witchwood, along with the gameplay changes that it brings. Not a lot of gameplay changes, mind you, but there's gonna be some additional types of things and interactions from various pathways you'll be exploring in the game, from the fact that the app is going to remember events and things and choices and different stuff that happen along the course of the game as you go through it, so making it a little bit more campaign focused as opposed to scenario focused as it was before. And you'll be having a few more changes and additions, including changes to the solo mode, including an adversity model. Let me see if I can find the names of the stuff over here. We have the Witchwood Plus, we have the, let's see, pull this up, here we go. The adversity module over here, giving you extra things to go for as far as extra challenges or extra goals to go for on your character. You have your character traits module, which once you unlock certain things will give you additional character traits in the game. You have your Deluxe Destiny storage box, which is the new storage box that'll fit all the content from the previous campaign and this campaign all together. And then we have Deluxe Metal Experience tokens. These are not coins. If you're like, I have the metal coins, these are not metal coins. These are the Metal Experience tokens, which are, you know, new to this campaign. And then we also have the Deluxe Point of Interest flags, which again, basically the original game had metal coins, and then other tokens were cardboard tokens. Some of the chunkiest cardboard tokens you've ever seen, mind you, great quality, but still you had metal and cardboard mixed together, and now they're giving you miniatures and more metal to compensate for all that cardboard. Over here is going to be have all the original stuff from the original campaign, the neoprene mats, all that stuff. And as far as pledge levels, we have a few options. We have the Deluxe Destiny Storage Pledge for €99, which gives you all the new content for the game. Great for returning backers. This is everything new for the game. You know, it's going to be Witchwood, the box, the new stuff, all those things. We have the Witchwood Pledge for only €39, it's giving you the Witchwood Core Pledge, all that glitter scenario pack. And we have the new Gameplay Pledge, which gives you the 2 modules, and the Mega Bundle Pledge as well. And that's basically what we have as far as all the content for Destiny's Witchwood in this campaign. That's basically it. That's the stuff. It's more content, more things, giving you a new setting for Destiny. If you like Destinies, this is more of the same. If you don't like Destinies, I don't imagine this changes your mind. I don't think there's enough here different that will change your mind if you didn't like Destinies. But if you did like Destinies, I just think it's more good stuff, along with some additional modules and gameplay changes for the game. From there, we have Tesseract, a cooperative dice manipulation game. This is 587 backers, $37,000 raised, 12 days to go, from Kurt Covert, from Smirk and Laughter, Smirk and Dagger Games. And this one really pulled me in, by the way. This was completely not on my radar. I didn't watch any content on the game at all. I saw a few videos pop up here and there, and I was like, whatever, it's a bunch of dice. And then I watched the video over here on Kickstarter and proceeded to look into all the content, and yes, back it at a ridiculously obnoxious level where I got all the metal dice for $130. I'm hoping I'm not making a mistake here. I really am. I just don't know. This game speaks to me. This game really speaks to me as far as it wasn't what I was expecting to back. That's all I'm saying. This over here is Tesseract. This is a solo or multiplayer puzzle as you try to figure out how to grab dice from the Tesseract before it ultimately explodes in your face, and use your variety of abilities to manipulate them to be able to get certain faces on the containment board. Once you completely fill the containment board with all the specific faces you need, and effectively the dice sides, by the way, are 1 through 6. They have little symbols in them, but if you look at each one, you can see how, like, this is a 4 pip side, that's a 2 pip side, a 1 pip side. You can see it actually has all the pips number. It's a 1 to 6 sided die. It just looks cooler. But you're trying to make all those dice work by using your abilities and trying to make everything work in your favor. It looks like an optimization puzzle of trying to get everything to the state that you want, which really is the kind of experience I generally like. Now, make no mistake, Tesseract might be a horrible game that I never enjoy and regret spending $130 on to get all the metal dice. That is absolutely possible, but it really speaks to me as far as my personal type of game that I enjoy, and the idea of, like, slowly diffusing this bomb of dice in the center of the table sounds fun. No idea. We'll find out. Either way, that's just a personal journey as far as my own interest level in this game that was completely not on my radar. Using your abilities, you can have some stretch goals in the Kickstarter. You're going to have some extras over here as far as, let's see if we can scroll down to the stretch goals. These are the metal dice. They are. I really hope that the metal dice pledge comes with basic dice too, in case I change my mind, because metal dice can sometimes be incredibly premium. Like, I have the ones from Hoplomachus from Ship Theory Games, and they are so good, but sometimes they can be a little fiddly, so we'll see whether this makes this game feel ridiculously premium. Also, I really hope this base over here is set up to support the metal dice, because that's additional weight. So let's hope that whole thing is not a mistake over there. Anyways, we have additional stretch goals over here, some new cards over here, some research cards. We have a new researcher card over here for a new character, and some more stuff that'll be unlocked. Hopefully more will be unlocked in the stretch goals, because otherwise right now the pledges, if you're not being crazy like I am, is going to be $50 for the game before including all stretch goals, and practically speaking at retail this will probably be cheaper than that. So the main reason to get this is going to be those stretch goals, which is why I hope there are more and more and more of them, because I want all of them, and that's Tesseract over here. Very intrigued by it. As far as should you back should you not. I'm actually skeptical to hold its value. I'm backing this one because I want those metal dice, which I think are more likely to hold their value, and also if you want them, your options are going to be limited on that. But right now, there's not enough following on this campaign, and it might not be a good game. It's always a possible. I'm just saying it does speak to me as far as the puzzly approach to the game, but it may be a game that doesn't work. It may be a game that doesn't pull people in. I like what it's doing over here, and I'm very intrigued by it. But yeah, that's Tesseract, a cooperative dice manipulation game. Then we have Vendel to Viking. This is Vendel to Viking endeavors to immerse players in the 250-year Nordic culture prior to the Viking era. $11,654, 169 backers, 14 days to go. This is coming to you from Iron Game Design, and I don't know about this game. I don't know anything about this game. I apologize. I debated not including it because it's only 169 backers, but at the same time, Iron Game Design does have a reputation of being putting out some solid games. So I decided to include this here so that you know it exists, and then that's it. I'm not going to try to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about the value. I'm not going to talk about the gameplay. I don't know a lot about this one. I just know that Iron Game Design has enough of a following that I want you to know it exists, and that's why it's here today. So, yeah, there's that. Moving on, we have Cosmoctopus, the board game. An engine-building, tentacle-gathering board game for 1 to 4 devotees from the designer of Parks. And that, by the way, is the big selling point from Henry Audubon. Solo, versus, and co-op mode in this game. 60 to 90 minutes, 1 to 4 players. This is a game that's doing $77,000 so far, 1,700 backers. And this is a game which you're trying to deal with the celestial gaze of the great inky one to become a dedicated follower and get all the tentacles in line, achieving goals one at a time through the manipulation at your fingertips. Kind of similar to Tesseract to a degree, totally different, but the general idea of the puzzle of it as the great inky one beckons. I don't know the words I say. Like, I never once in my life thought that I would be saying out loud the great inky one beckons. That's just not a sentence I planned on. Anyways, we have over here, we have for the pleasure levels, we have £39, apologies, £39 for Cosmoctopus, the board game, and that's it. That's all we have. We had an early bird, which gave you a free plush over there, a free Cosmo Octo plushie. Again, the words I'm saying over here, but that's what we have as far as the pledge levels over here. Just £39, $46 to get your hands on the game with all these stretch goals, which is not a ton, but we will talk about those shortly. What's in the box? We have 30 miniatures. We have 80. Oh, and as far as the solo mode, I didn't really talk about that. So you're trying to achieve these goals. There's going to be a solo mode, which also, if you're playing with multiple players, can make it a cooperative experience. That's why you have either competitive or you're fighting against the PI, the private investigator, and that works both solo or cooperatively. But basically, you have that's the PI is going to be wandering around a little track. Supposedly it's great, one-stop co-op shop, good feedback on it. It goes very quickly. But as far as the game content over here, we have the cards, the 88 unique devotee cards. We have the first contact cards, the reference cards, the Inky Realms, the wooden resource tokens, the summoning tiles. Scrolling down, why back now? Well, you have a few Kickstarter exclusives, including the Cosmoctopus sticker sheet. These, I don't believe these are for components. I just believe they're stickers. But we also have wooden magnifying glasses and cosmic bridges, and the tentacle resource organizer. So you're going to have that little organizer with the tentacles in them as far as additional reasons to back this game now as opposed to waiting for retail. This is, like I said already, from Henry Audubon, designer of Parks, a game I love. Does not mean I like this game, but just it's a designer I like a lot, so there is that. But that's Cosmoctopus. Cosmoctopus over on Kickstarter. As far as should you back it, should you not? I'm a little skeptical on this one. The price point versus the exclusives on me don't really sell me. They do have that insert, which does have me intrigued, but at the same time, once you factor in shipping versus the cost at retail, I think this is one you can get cheaper at retail for sure. The question is, are those extras worth it? I'm a little bit more skeptical on this one. It's definitely doing well. Designer of Parks would have that, as well as, obviously the general presentation, the theme, all those things stand out, but I am skeptical that this one will hold its value. Moving on, we have the Queen's Dilemma. $412,000 raised, $3,000 backers, 15 days to go. The Queen's Dilemma is, let me start off with the price tag over here. The Queen's Dilemma is going to run you $100 on the low end, €100 on the low end to get your hands on it, or €130 to get the standard edition, or €160 to get the Royal Edition. That is making it significantly more expensive than the King's Dilemma. Yes, they address this in the FAQ. They talk about how the Queen's Dilemma has much more content than the King's Dilemma, hence the increase in price. Also, there is Kickstarter exclusive content over here, the Age of Disorder expansion if you want that. So there is reason to get on Kickstarter, but first let's talk about the Queen's Dilemma. We have a 4.5 minute long video here you can watch. Honestly, really well done video. I do recommend watching it. This is from Horrible Guild, I believe. Horrible Guild over here. A bunch of games under the belt. But this one is the Queen's Dilemma, the follow-up to the King's Dilemma. It is not a sequel. It is I guess it's a sequel. It's not an expansion, I should say. It's not an expansion. It's a standalone game. You do not have to have played the King's Dilemma at all. This is a game which you're trying to basically create the narrative of the kingdom as you go through it. You have the Dilemma card system. You and the other players are going to be voting to try to figure out and establish what happens game to game. This is a campaign game, a 30-plus hour campaign campaign, including your own personal agendas that you're trying to achieve as well. There's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff going on, both stuff that you're familiar with if you've played the King's Dilemma, as well as new aspects they've added into the game, as well as a new content they've added to the game, as well as the Age of Disorder content expansion kit, which is all the stretch goals that are being developed on Kickstarter. That's gonna be what's in that box over there. And there's also a reset kit. There's also, if we go to the Royal Upgrade Pack, no, not that one, at $130, I believe you get the $100 gets you the Age of Disorder expansion kit. I think $130 gets you the it says, I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what the thing is. I'm pretty sure the standard edition gives you the reset pack, but I'm not certain. Okay, available. This pledge does not include the free recharge pack included with the standard pledge. So yes, the standard pledge does come with the free recharge pack. Based on the way that's phrased over there, I'm pretty 99% sure. It's just the way it's a little confusing. Honestly, it is. Because you see, if you look at the standard pledge, it doesn't say that there's a reset pack. At least not that I'm seeing. But if you look at the $100 pledge, it does say that the standard pledge does come with the reset pack. So that's my confusion. For $160, you'll also get the Royal Upgrade stuff, which gives you all these tokens, the Royal Leader token, these 60 metal tokens, 240 wooden resource tokens, basically upgrading all your resources over there. Those are the options you get. The Queen's Dilemma pack is included with the standard and Royal pledge levels. There you go. That's pretty specific. If you wanted that, that's pretty specific. That is basically what's going on with the Queen's Dilemma. High rated game, very well loved, more content for this. This one's been hyped for a very long time as far as teasing the game and coming out and all that stuff. And now it's finally here and doing well with $400,000 raised, doing phenomenally well. I think it's the second highest. Actually, there's a bunch of campaigns. There's Cthulhu That May Die, there's 20 Strong, there's Destinies, and then this Queen's Dilemma look like the heavy hitters as far as the campaigns today. But either way, there's others doing well too. Those are just, I think, the top 4. But anyways, that is basically the Queen's Dilemma. As far as should you back or should you not, it's very hard to say. The price point on this one is significantly higher than the King's Dilemma, and there is deluxe exclusive content here, so it is hard. If the game does do well, people will want that exclusive content, so I think, instinctively, I do think it'll hold its value because there is exclusive content with a well-liked game, or a well-liked game system. So even though it is expensive, I do feel it's likely to hold its value because people will want it, but obviously it depends on how much, reset stuff and how much stuff you actually burn through versus like how fresh is the game. I don't know if there's any stuff that's going to be ripped up or torn or destroyed. That totally changes the conversation, obviously. But this is definitely expensive. I would say if you're interested in this game, you can always just get the King's Dilemma for $40 or $50 or whatever it's going to cost you, and basically start off there and see if you like the system before spending $100 to $160 getting this, plus of course shipping and all that stuff as well. Moving on to Die of the Dead, the solo expansion and Offender variant. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This basically brings a solo expansion as well as a different way to play Die of the Dead to your table. Die of the Dead was a puzzle die stacking system with dice and coffins and all this stuff, and apparently there are different variants as far as how to play the game using the same components, both the solo variant and the Offender variant, that you can go ahead and dive into there. That will run you 15 pounds for the solo expansion and 24 pounds for the Offender variant, and 34 for both of those together if you want all of that. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. Generally the Die of the Dead stuff for the most part has not held its value, but it's also not in wide availability. So this is one of those things that if you want it, Kickstarter will guarantee it, but if you're on the fence, it's likely not going to hold its value there. Oh, and there's also pledge levels to get the full base game as well. From there we get Hidden Leaders Forgotten Legends. Three more. Hidden Leaders Forgotten Legends, 3,000 backers, $70,000 raised. This is the Forgotten Legends expansion to Hidden Leaders, bringing you 3 modules. You're going to have Corruption, which is this module where you're putting these different tokens down on the various characters, depending on different tiers hit, and manipulating the way you interact with those characters. You're also going to have the new faction, which is the new faction, the Guardians, which are going to be a new way to win, and bringing you more leader cards and more of a question mark of who is who as you play through this game. And then lastly, you'll have the Relics, which are basically these cool cards that give players one or 2 or 3 time use abilities. I think it's actually 2 or 3 time use abilities that you can use in the game in different ways to add to just different stuff you can do in the game. Hidden Leaders is a game where you're basically trying to play as a leader who has 2 different factions. You're trying to win in either of the, not relics, artifacts, my bad, artifacts. But you're trying to play as these leaders who have 2 different factions they can align with, and you're trying to make sure either of those factions win, and that you have the most heroes in that faction when that faction does win. Which leads to a bit of a puzzle as you try to figure out who is who as you play through the game, as you play through the experience, and try to deduce, but you don't need to figure out who other players are, but if you do figure out who they are, you do have an easier time playing through that system. That is basically Hidden Leaders. We have a few options for pledges. We have $18 for the expansion over here, if you just want the expansion, the Kickstarter exclusive version of the expansion, the deluxe expansion, or we have $24 for the base game, or $39 for both if you want to get your hands on both of those. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value. The original Hidden Leaders overall did very well with like 12,000 plus people backing it, but it also led to the market being semi-flooded on this one, and it didn't do a great job holding its value. This is the deluxe edition compared to retail, so you're paying a little bit more, but you you are getting extras, but it's one that I think overall, even with 3,000 backers in the expansion, which is less than the original base game, that's still plenty of people. Expansions are a little trickier though. The one caveat I'd give is expansions are trickier because often if you have the base game and you want the expansion content, well, more often than not, people are going to be selling or trading both those together, so you do want to factor that in. As far as next up, we have Tabriz from Crafty Games. Tabriz over on GameFound, this is $108,000 raised, 1,300 backers so far. Tabriz from the designer of Cascadia, from his name is Randy Flynn, from Randy Flynn, designer of Cascadia. This is a game that I'm realizing now I was still in the middle of the video on how to play this, the video by Tim Chun, and for whatever reason I skipped around and ended up watching a whole different video on paid review content from Tim Chun. Highly recommend Tim Chun, fantastic channel. Either way, this is Tabriz. Tabriz, you are a master carpet weaver in the Grand Bazaar as you move around trying to collect tokens you need and fulfill orders, buying materials at the shops, and then trying to cash them in to slowly upgrade your tableau as you complete missions for prestige, quant skills, and special abilities, unlocking your commissions, moving your apprentice, and more. A great video by Tim Chun if you watch the video. Fantastic overview as far as how everything looks, how it plays, all that stuff for the parts that I actually finished on the video. But that's basically Tabriz over on GameFound. We have two main pledge levels over here. We have $60 for the base game, the premier edition of the game, which giving you all unlocks for the campaign. There's no standard retail edition over here. And then $85 for the Tabriz discount bundle, giving you 66 metal Quran, as well as the Dice Tower punch board, and then potentially if you follow the campaign, you'll also get the Tabriz promo punch board, or you can buy that separately for $10. And that's basically what we have over here on Tabriz, which brings us to our last game of the day, which is Zoo Tycoon, the board game. $218,000 raised, 2,000 backers, 23 days to go. Zoo Tycoon, the board game, brings you, well, Zoo Tycoon in a board game. I have review content on this one if you want to check it out. It's from Triceratops. This one overall is a game where you're managing a zoo. That's the whole appeal of the game. You're trying to manage a zoo, both for trying to make more animals, trying to develop your zoo, trying to build the right shops, trying to make sure you don't have too many animals, too many babies. You're trying to manage everything, actually taking care and trying to deal with your animal's happiness while trying to get sets of happiness and trying to manage your popularity and your conservation. Your popularity and your conservation are going to be the two main things because your score at the end of the game is equal to your lowest of your popularity or your conservation. Popularity is going to be your overall zoo, your attendance, bringing people in. It's the natural thing that will grow as you play through the game, but you have to have a game plan as to how you're getting your conservation in play, because conservation is going to be those extra points you get for having different sets of animals, having happy animals, trying to release animals back into the wild, all these different options on the table as far as how you manage your conservation in this game, and you need to think through how you do that before the it's very complicated. There's 6 full rounds, there's a starting round, there's a scoring round, so it's like 6.5 sort of rounds as far as the game goes. Trying to manage all of that. Lots going on here. Very solid game. It's definitely on the heavier side. This is not a light game. There's a lot to manage in a good way. They're very brain burny, very crunchy, a little long. It can run 2-3 hours as far as the experience goes. And as far as the Kickstarter version of the game, should you back it, should you not? Well, the Kickstarter version of the game is going to run you, but it's going to give you the screen printed meeples for your game. So you're looking at two main options over here. You have $60 or $80 for the Zoo Tycoon standard edition of the game, and then $106 for the deluxe edition of the game, which is going to give you silkscreen meeples for all of those, which is definitely nice if you want your meeples silkscreen, which is, I mean, they're cool. They are cool looking. Which brings us to the should you back it, should you not? Overall, the game is not cheap. It comes with a ton of wooden meeples, a ton of content. It is a big box full of a lot of stuff, and the price point of $80 is not unreasonable. The price point of $100 is also going to run you another $20 in shipping or so. So you're looking at $120 to get your hands on the Kickstarter version of the game. I think it's a very good game. I don't know if it'll hold its value or not. I don't know on this one. This one it's a good game with a deluxe upgrade components and content for the game, but it's also expensive. People are going to be comparing this to games like Ark Nova and saying I can get Zoo Tycoon Deluxe Edition for $120, or I can get Ark Nova for like $65. What am I going to do with that choice over there? Both of them are big boxes chock full of content in different ways. So I think this is one that has a decent chance of holding its value, but definitely a question mark just given the price point on a game. It's doing well, but it's not doing amazingly well, and so that will translate over into the how things do down the road. Which brings us which brings us to the picks of the week. Picks of the week, we have 2 of these in general. We have a value pick of the week, the thing that I think is most likely to hold its value. And then we have a personal interest pick of the week. For my value pick of the week, I'm going to try to cheat a bit. I mean, honestly, there's so many games I want to pick right now. It's very tough. But for my value pick of the week, I'm going to go with the easy one, which is Cthulhu, Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown. This would also easily be my interest pick of the week, but I do try to split those up, so I'm not going to pick this one for my interest. This is one that's most likely to hold its value. If you're looking for a safe back, Cthulhu, Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown is easily a safe back. For my personal interest pick of the week, it's between 20 Strong and Tesseract over here, but I'm ultimately going to go with Tesseract, which might surprise you. But, I mean, I don't know if Tesseract will hold up or not, but 20 Strong looks very compelling, make no mistake. Both 20 Strong and Tesseract are both strongly pulling me in. But Tesseract looks like my jam. I don't know if it'll work or not. I don't know if I'll like it. I have no idea. It does look like the kind of experience I like. To the point that I overpaid for metal dice on this one. I'm going to regret this. I'm so going to regret this. But either way, that's basically what we have there. As far as upcoming campaigns, we have 2 upcoming campaigns I'm going to talk about briefly. Just Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is going to be launching November 1st, as is Roleplay Adventures expansion Gullpax's Secret. Both of these are launching November 1st, and both of these are excellent games that I have played them. I've played Slay the Spire, I've played Gullpax's Secrets, I've played Roleplay Adventures. I've gone through these all. I think they're both fantastic games, and I'm very excited to see them launch. And that is basically everything we have this week, which means I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thanks for bearing with me through this slightly longer, very fast-moving to back or not to back. And as always, I hope you have a good one. If I seem a little tired or overwhelmed, just a lot going on. See, I just got a job making plastic Draculas at the factory. There's only 2 of us on the assembly line, so I have to make every second count.